Hello and welcome back to our video training series on understanding, identifying, and treating structural dysfunctions that are often the cause of our clients' chronic pains. I'm Zach Comer, and in this video I'm going to share with you who is Jerry Hesch and how did he come to create the Hesch Method. Jerry Hesch is a physical therapist who has over 35 years of clinical experience. He is currently based out of Aurora, Colorado. Jerry's specialty is treating joint movement dysfunctions, and he's known as a leading expert in the world specifically on sacroiliac joint dysfunction. He has clients coming from all around the world on a regular basis to see him, typically as a last and final resort before having joint fusions or other more dramatic interventions that they may be trying to avoid, or maybe they've had those treatments and they're still in pain and still looking for what's causing their pain. He's published a number of articles on joint dysfunctions and the SI joint. Jerry is a contributing author in the book Dynamic Body. This book is a compilation of different authors, all of whom are innovators and leaders in biomechanics, fascial anatomy, functional movement, and manipulative therapy. If you know who Eric Dalton is, he's the creator of the myoskeletal alignment technique. Eric Dalton's a pretty significant name in the orthopedic manual therapy industry. And Eric brought together all these leaders, the best of the best, and compiled their expertise into one book. And Jerry's contribution to that book is the chapter on sacral torsion. Now, how did he come to create the Hesch Method? Essentially out of necessity, essentially out of needing to find better treatments for his own injuries that were causing significant pain, limitation, and to some degree disability in his own life. Jerry suffered a number of traumatic injuries in his youth, a significant motorcycle accident that created separation of his SI joints and his pubic joints. Now, if you can just imagine having those three major joints of your pelvis dislocated, all the problems that could cause. So that led to Jerry really doing the super deep dive into understanding how all of those joints work, which led him to being one of the world's biggest experts on proper function and restoring proper function to those joints specifically. But he had other injuries as well. One was falling about 5 feet directly onto his head, doing gymnastics. Long story short, through various injuries and many treatments that he tried, being a physical therapist himself, had access to some of the best knowledge that was available in the mainstream. So it didn't work for him. And that's true for many of our clients who are on that treatment roller coaster, right? That what's out there and it's readily available doesn't work for many people. So Jerry was able to spend an incredible amount of time studying outside of the mainstream and then going beyond that to just literally staring at skeletal models and imagining all the possible movements that might be there in theory, and then finding ways to test them on himself and test them on his clients to see if those were motions that would normally be in the human movement system. And as a result, Jerry is truly a pioneer in terms of having discovered certain motions in the human body that weren't known to exist prior to his work. Through years of refinement, he has organized this information that's a collection of not only what helped him, but what has helped thousands of his clients at this point get results that they were unable to obtain through other therapies and working with other therapists. And it's all culminated in the Hesch Method. The Hesch Method continues to evolve. In the 2.5 years I've been studying it, Jerry continues to discover new things that make the treatments more powerful and more efficient and longer lasting, and treating things at an even deeper level in some cases, even after all these years. So he's an innovator, he's a pioneer, and he's a scientist. He's truly a body scientist, a movement scientist, if there is one at all in our fields. The Hesch Method, in terms of what it stands out for, this is a little teaser, a prelude to content coming in the next videos. But first and foremost, the Hesch method stands out for identifying subtle micro emotions within the joints as essential to proper movement for the entire joint and for the rest of the body, and identifying these micro emotions as oftentimes the overlooked root causes when they are restricted. The Hesch method stands out in terms of its testing for these micro emotions. You can know they exist, but can you find them? Can you find where the blockages are? He has figured out which techniques, which advanced techniques for testing them are most accurate, most reliable, and yet simple at the same time. The techniques for any individual joint are very specific. We'll go into those details. But for now, what I want you to take away from and remember as a prelude to all that is that the Hesch method really stands out in terms of it treating the nervous system as the agent which is most likely and most often responsible for the motion restrictions that we find and for the tightness in those deep tissues that we're going to talk further about, which are in and around these joint spaces. And finally, the last thing that I'll mention now about the Hesch method, what makes it stand out is that it provides incredibly organized step-by-step treatment roadmaps that allow you to, first, you do all the evaluation, you figure out what are the individual restrictions throughout the system, and then you're able to look at them as a collective and figure out what patterns they are a part of, how these different restrictions often fit together to form larger patterns of restrictions that need to be treated as an entire unit. And it also prioritizes in what order we're going to treat those restrictions so that we've got the best chance at getting the most efficient and longest lasting results. So with that, we'll wrap up this video. I hope this gives you an appreciation for who Jerry Hesch is, what the Hesch method is, how it came into being, and gives you a little bit of excitement on what we're going to look at moving forward. I will see you in the next video.